Hi, I'm Tracy Jacobs. I'm the director of the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at Towson University, and I want to welcome you today to the preview of spring classes. We're going to be talking about the spring 2022 classes, and before we do that, before we get to all of that, announcements that I have to make just to catch you up on some details. One, you want to check out the catalog. The catalog is on the website. You'll see details across your screen about how to get to our website, and you'll be able to view all of the course descriptions, information on registration, and other details that are important. So registration is going to open at midnight, February 15th, and that is online registration, which is what we prefer you will do. There are instructions for online registration on our website, and when you get there, please thoroughly read the instructions before you do your registration. The one thing I really want to hit home for everybody is that we're a bit short-staffed at the moment. So we always ask for your patience around this time, but I'm really asking for it, especially this year. Also, if you are going to turn in a paper registration, which you can do by mailing it in with a check, follow the instructions in the catalog, but make sure you email us as well. So we need to know that you've sent it in. The way to contact us, the best way is by email at osher@towson.edu. If you register online and you see that there's a wait list, make sure you sign yourself up on that wait list if you'd like to be considered. I want to tell you a little bit about our schedule because our schedule is different this time around. We're doing Mondays and Fridays as online classes. So we're only doing online classes on those days. We have in-person classes on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. We've searched high and low for a great space. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're at the Loyola Graduate Center in Timonium, which is wonderful because it's straight up 83, right off the exit, and it's got fantastic parking, better than ever, really nice classrooms, very spacious hallways, nice seating areas, all about. And on Wednesdays, we have a great partnership with Edenwald Senior Living in Towson. And so we're going to continue to have classes there on Wednesdays. So I know you're all concerned, as we are. Actually, we're very concerned about health and safety, and yours in particular, that of our instructors, and of course, our own. We're going to follow all of the guidance, and the host institutions where I just mentioned will have our in-person classes. They have guidelines we'll follow, and we're going to send those out via email. Now, I want to thank you for joining us today. I want to thank you for all of your participation and your continued support. I want to thank you for being lifelong learners who are adaptable, and you're willing to continue learning, whether it's online or in person or a mix. And I want to thank you ahead of time for being patient and for all of the grace and just your support that you've offered while we're trying to put together the best programs that we can do for you. And now sit back, relax, and enjoy the preview presentation. So see you this spring. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Julie Kurzava. Today, I want to invite you to take two of my classes I'm offering this spring. The first in March is called Songwriter Signatures, and I'm going to share with you clues to identify great songwriters based on substance and style. We'll start with Gershwin, then move to Porter, Irving Berlin, probably Jerome Kern, and maybe a few others if there's time. But each week I'll give a brief introduction about a particular writer, and then we'll look at 3 or 4 specific examples of their work and trying to figure out what are the things that make them sound distinctive so that you always know who wrote the song. Things like melodic invention, text painting, harmonic signatures and chord progressions, song forms, rhythmic idiosyncrasies, and performance practice as well. So as a musical geek, I've always tried to figure out what a piece is just by listening to it. So I want to share some of that with you. In April, I'm doing a completely different class, which I'm hopeful that a lot of you will want to come. It's about humor in music, and I'm calling it Make 'em Laugh. They say that laughter is the best medicine, and comic songs have been a big part of that. And this class is going to be dedicated to the serious pursuit of having a lot of fun. We will look at great comedic moments in musical theater and in popular song. We'll look at works again of Gershwin or Porter, probably some Stephen Sondheim, and even some Weird Al Yankovic. And don't forget Gilbert and Sullivan. We're going to look at farce, satire, comic relief, physical comedy, commedia dell'arte, patter, puns, double entendre, and anything else I can dig up. But I guarantee it's going to be lots and lots of fun. And you probably will have a few ideas you want to add as well, because what is funny is a limitless topic. So I hope to see you in March for the class on songwriters and musical signatures, and in April, looking at humor in music. Take care, and I'll see you then. Bye.
Oh, hi! I didn't see you there. I was just practicing a little klezmer tune entitled A Nacht in Gan Eden. Translated from the Yiddish into English, that means a night in the Garden of Eden, which is very appropriate because I'm going to be playing and talking a lot about klezmer music at Edenwald in Towson. Klezmer, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, is Eastern European Jewish folk music, the kind of music you would hear at a wedding or a village celebration in the old country. But it's more interesting than that, because it's also what happened to that music when over 2.5 million Jews traveled across the Atlantic Ocean at the end of the 19th, beginning of the 20th century, and settled in New York, because New York is the center of the known universe, and those old world sounds began to mix with the sounds of the new world. Early jazz, Dixieland, Tin Pan Alley, and the result in many ways is a quintessentially American form of music, reflective of the Jewish immigrant experience in the melting pot of New York. In my class, we're going to explore the history of this music, some of the very colorful individuals who were associated with it in the early decades of the 20th century. We'll go over some theory and some musical insight, again, accessible for a layperson. We're going to listen to a lot of great classic recordings, see some rare vintage video clips, and mostly have a lot of fun. So I hope to see you over at Edenwald for my class, Klezmer American Music.
Hi, everyone. I'm Greg Jones, and once again, we will be looking at 8 plays everyone should know. This is the 5th edition, so actually we're at about 40 plays I think everyone should know. You don't have to have taken any of the other courses to take this one. Those of you who have will know that it's a mix of me talking, and way more important than that, scenes from the plays, good productions of the plays, along with some guest appearances by some of Baltimore and Washington's finest acting talent. I send out a list of the plays and where to see or read them in advance, but you don't have to. You can come in totally armed with questions and comments, or you can come in as an open slate. It's totally your choice. And the plays we'll be doing range from the Greeks, Antigone, to the Renaissance, Dr. Faustus and The Merchant of Venice. And then the 20th century, we're going to do Mother Courage and Her Children. And then we're going to do some fairly recent ones, Glengarry Glen Ross, Arcadia, Long Day's Journey into Night, which of course is O'Neill's classic, Cloud Nine, and I think that's it. At any rate, I really look forward once again to one of my favorite times of the week, meeting with you and talking about 8 plays everyone should know, starting March 9th, Wednesdays at 1. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Howard Cohn. My class will shine a light on some of the world's finest artists. Tudzinski, Ethereal, Stained Glass Judith Schachter, Provocative, Karen Lamont, and Baltimore's own Joy Scott. Look, Mom, a doctor. Each artist is known for her creativity and unique and compelling perspectives. They challenge our standards of beauty and advocate for issues that are important to them. For example, Tutsinski, in her Endangered Species series that you saw, creates multicolored glass vessels that are woven and fused from thousands of glass threads to honor birds on the verge of extinction. Provocative Joyce Scott says that she skirts the boundaries between comedy, pathos, delight, and horror. Her beaded sculptural forms are provocative and confrontational, generally addressing contentious social issues such as gender, race, and class struggle. The stained glass creations of Judith Schachter also exhibit some of the exuberance and tension embodied in Scott's work. Through the use of brilliant colors and dazzling beauty, Schechter draws us in to look closely at her provocative creations. Over the years, I've been extremely fortunate. I've gotten to know and interview each artist. So please join my class. We'll peek behind the curtains to illuminate what inspires each artist and the processes they use to realize their artistic and creative vision. I hope to see you there. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Come to Polynesian Arts and Cultures. In this class, we'll talk about the visual arts and architecture and related oral traditions of long-distance voyaging, the various styles of canoes and their current revivals, the ceremonial buildings called marae, established in all the islands after settlement. We'll talk about tattooing, and some of my favorite art forms are the varying styles of wooden bowls and boxes that were made and used across Polynesia. These contrasting styles express the diverse identities centered on island groups across Polynesia and even across the Pacific as a whole. In terms of island groups, nations, and cultural groups, we'll start with the ancient Lapita culture, who were among the voyaging ancestors of modern Polynesians. We'll talk about the U.S. state of Hawaii as the northernmost island group. They're noted for presentations of indigenous pre-colonial deities in sculpture and dance, and in beautiful featherwork, and invoked in ivory ornaments. Then we'll go to the southernmost islands of the nation of New Zealand and the nearby Cook Islands that are home to the Maori people, and they're famous for their elaborate facial tattoos that are being revived. Elaborate large and small scale wooden sculpture and distinctive canoe styles are also very elegant there. Then we'll look at the island nations of Fiji, the Kingdom of Tonga, and the independent state of Samoa, and their neighbors, the American territory of American Samoa. These people are best known for their intensive and extensive practice of making pounded mulberry bark tapa cloth. Presentations of enormous sheets of tapa cloth can be part of formal ceremonies of dance, poetry, and song. Finally, we conclude at easternmost Easter Island in French Polynesia. Easter Island's large standalone heads have recently been discovered to have buried sculpted torsos with inscriptions. So come join the class, and thank you for listening.
Hello, this is Michael Saltzman, inviting you to join me in this year's re-exploration of the most important art movement in the history of the United States, abstract expressionism. It was the movement that changed the capital of world art from Paris to New York City. It raised a generation of the greatest artists in the history of the United States, and it led to several succeeding movements, such as contemporary abstraction, color field painting, performance art, and movements in opposition to abstract expressionism, like pop art, minimalism, hard edge painting, and earth art. We are going to explore the sources of abstract expressionism in a way that is relatively new, where the contributions of both women and African American artists are going to be included, and how they came to be part of the movement. We will talk about separately the gestural wing of abstract expressionism, headed by people like Pollock, and de Kooning and Klein and Joan Mitchell. And we will look at the color field wing of the movement in the third lecture with people like Lewis and Noland and other descendants of the abstract expressionists. And then in the final lecture of the series, we will be discussing the impact of abstract expressionism on art today. So I hope you'll join me in our exploration of this most exciting, most beautiful, most impactful movement in the history of American art. Hope to see you there in March. Bye-bye.
The late Susan Sontag wrote in 1977, "The photographer is an armed version of the solitary walker, reconnoitering, stalking, cruising the urban inferno, the voyeuristic stroller who discovers the city as a landscape of voluptuous extremes. Adept of the joys of watching, connoisseur of empathy, the flaneur finds the world picturesque," unquote. The first street photograph in 1838 or 1839 was taken by Louis Daguerre, the first of many photographers to do so. This four-part survey will highlight, from the early days of photography to the present, many well-known and relatively unknown photographers: Atget, Stieglitz, Frank, Cartier-Bresson, Kroll, Negret, and others. We will see the street images of Winograd, Freelander, and many more, and discuss style, technique, and equipment. So please join me in April.
I'm pleased to offer the OSHA community a course on Bertolt Brecht, who is hands down, I think, the greatest playwright of the last century, and a very dynamic Promethean figure. He's sort of like the Kardashians, except he has a lot of talent. More important than that, he is what I think is very important. He has something to teach us in this age, which I characterize as being an age of toxic individualism, where personality, freedom is thought the be-all, end-all, unbalanced by service to community. For Brecht, and for reality itself, the individual doesn't come fully formed as Venus was supposed to be from the mind of Zeus. It's shaped by society, so that's very important. So his emphasis is on changing the society. If you don't like the way people are behaving, society has to change. We will go over the Kurt Weill Brecht collaboration, which culminated in the Threepenny Opera, a fascinating piece. Maybe listen to a little excerpts from that. Otherwise, I'd like you to familiarize yourself with some of the major works of Brecht, like Galileo and Mother Courage. But we will go over in detail the Caucasian Chalk Circle, because this best, I think, illustrates his technique and his dizzying ability to entertain. And that's his last greatest play. So whether you're just curious, or you love the theater, or you're just wondering what life is all about, this just might be the course for you. And I look forward to seeing many of you in person soon. Thank you.
My name is Makita Brotman. I'm a full-time professor at MICA. I'm offering a class in the second 4-week session on Joseph Conrad's novella, Heart of Darkness, written in 1899. This will be a close reading of what's widely considered to be one of the most important literary works of the 20th century and the foundation of literary modernism. This will be an in-person class and will cover the social and cultural background of the era and some of Joseph Conrad's life and work. But mostly we'll be looking at the perplexing, intriguing, fascinating, infuriating novella in very close depth. It's a very short novella. We'll take a section each week and we'll cover it thoroughly and closely with close attention to language, sentence structure, detail, and consider what it is about this novel that made it get under the skin of 20th century writers and thinkers as various as T.S. Eliot, Francis Ford Coppola, Orson Welles, and a whole host of other thinkers, authors, and philosophers. No prior knowledge of the novella is required. This will basically be a slow, in-depth, close reading.
Hi, my name is Saima Sitwat. I am a writer and educator based in Baltimore. This spring, I'll be teaching a 4-week course called The American Minority Experience. This class provides an opportunity to study literary pieces from Indigenous, Black, and American writers and reflect on the experience of growing up as a minority in the United States of America. The class will include challenging ideas and rigorous conversation on identity and belonging in today's America. During our study, we will attempt to answer the most pertinent question of our times, that is, who gets to be an American? We will be meeting April 13th to May 4th on Wednesdays at 11 a.m., and I hope to see many of you there.
I'm Bill Barry, and I'm glad to be back at Towson Osher for the spring term. The last class we did, we covered the Red Scare, which consumed this country from 1945 until maybe 1960, and unfortunately may be coming back. So I wanted to combine that history with my love of movies to create a course called Movies of the Red Scare. And it's going to be 2 parts. There are going to be 4 movies which were made during the Red Scare. One of them is called The Woman on Pier 13, and it features a businessman who's being blackmailed for his previous political beliefs. We have another one, I Was a Spy for the FBI, in which the FBI pays a man to join the Communist Party and provide names and information. A great movie with Helen Hayes as a mother with 2 sons with very different political beliefs is My Son John. And finally, a movie which is not well known, Storm Center, in which Betty Davis plays a librarian in a small town who's being harassed for not banning certain books. Clearly, it's a movie that's ripped from the headlines. We're then going to have 4 movies about the blacklist. The first one is The Front, which is featuring Woody Allen as a clerk in a delicatessen who becomes famous loaning his name to blacklisted screenwriters. Trumbo won the Academy Award, and it's about Dalton Trumbo, a longtime well-known writer who was one of the first to break the Hollywood blacklist. We have Good Night and Good Luck with George Clooney playing Edward R. Murrow, and a story about the first commercial attack by CBS on the blacklist. And finally, Guilty by Suspicion with Robert De Niro as a man who can't decide whether or not to tell name names on his friends. So these are exciting. They're going to be great discussions, and I hope to see you there.
Did you know that the first 5 books of the Bible, known in Greek as the Pentateuch and in Hebrew as the Torah, were not written by Moses, but by at least 4 authors and a redactor? Did you know that some of the prophets of the Bible practiced prophecy as a profession and had disciples and even schools of prophecy? Did you know that none of the kings of ancient Israel were kings, but rather messiahs, that is, anointed ones? Did you know that not all the letters attributed to St. Paul in the New Testament were written by him? Did you know that Matthew and Luke copied Mark's gospel as a basis for their own gospels? Did you know that the Gospel of John is a multi-strata composition of at least 3 authors? Did you know that contrary to popular contemporary preachers, the book of Revelation says nothing about today's world? Well, that's just a few of the things you will have explained to you when you take the course Survey of the Bible. So, please bring a Bible with you and join us for this rapid but thorough trip through the greatest story ever told.
Hi, my name is Mark Yorick, and I'm going to be teaching the course on capitalism in China that we're offering online this April and May. A lot of Americans are only vaguely aware that China has become a tremendously capitalist country. Many of us of a certain age who can remember all the way back to the 60s and 70s can remember when China was one of the most hardcore communist countries in the world. Capitalism is operating and developing in China in a context that's very different from the context that it develops and operates in the United States. This can all be pretty confusing because of the very different historical and economic and political context. It's also a situation where a lot of Americans are very antagonized by China these days for all kinds of good reasons. But one of the things that I've learned is that it is a big mistake to think of China as being simply a government. China is not a government. China has a government, but China is a stupendously, spectacularly huge, diverse, and formidable country where many, 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 many people are living their lives just as real, just as passionate as the lives that we lead in the United States. So what we're going to do in this class is we're going to explore how China has made the transition from the way things used to be with communism way back in the bad old days to today, where it is an immensely capitalist country that is quickly growing more and more and more affluent and powerful. So I hope you join me for this class.
Hello, I'm Rex Rayfeld, and the course I'm going to teach is about the Spanish Civil War. The war is one that few today have ever heard of because it gets lost in the events that led to World War II, which began only a few months after the Civil War's end. In April 1931, the Second Spanish Republic was proclaimed, beginning several years of unstable government and anti-clerical violence as power shifted between the right and left, until on July 17, 1936, a group of generals led by Francisco Franco, fed up with the instability, began a revolt to replace the republic. The Civil War is probably one of the most misunderstood wars of all times. Often characterized as a fight between democracy and fascism, there was in fact little, if any, democracy on the one side. Instead, it was a clash between autocracy and a combination of anarchy, communism, socialism, and a touch of republicanism. Nor, as often considered, was it really a rehearsal for World War II, though Germany, Italy, and the Soviet Union were accorded opportunities to hone their forces' combat skills. Starting with the promulgation of its first constitution in 1812, Spain had followed an often bumpy road on its way to becoming a democracy. The Civil War and the Franco era that followed, lasting until 1975, was an almost 40-year interruption in that process. But in the end, democracy won, and today Spain is a liberal constitutional democracy. We'll follow this bumpy road through two civil wars, First Republic in 1873, the Spanish-American War in 1898, wars in Spanish Morocco, the Civil War itself, and the Franco era, and Spain's road to democracy following Franco's death. Come join with me as we travel along that bumpy road. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ahmad Ashrati, and I'd like to invite you for a class on the anthropology of the Quran. The Quran for Muslims is a divine revelation. The purpose of this class is to understand two basic things. How does the Quran present God, and how do Muslims represent the divine? Of course, we have to start with some basic anthropological definition of religion, especially with respect to two core concepts, the holy and the sacred. What we will find is that in the Quran, as well as in anthropology, these two concepts are categorically distinct, separate, different. Muslims, however, tend to neglect these differences. The reasons for this are many, including human pious inclinations. The text might be obscure, which is the case sometimes. The ambiguity of the idea of transcendence. Most of all, the human inclinations toward authoritarianism. This neglect of the difference between the holy and the sacred has led to many inversions of the principles of the Quran in crucial areas such as law, ethics, aesthetics, economics, and politics. These are the thoughts I'd like to discuss with you, and this is how we'll proceed if you choose to join me, which I hope you'll do. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Barbara Bloomberg-Resson. If I were to take you through your entire day, starting from when you got up in the morning until you went to bed at night, you would be amazed that just about everything that you do, use, take, ride, was invented by a woman. And these women, unfortunately, are not known. So the women faced gender bias, they faced education bias, they faced racial bias, but they persevered. And I think that you'll find their story just fascinating. So we're going to learn about these women, Kevlar vest, fire escapes, the women that have pioneered and invented the things that we use every day, your glasses, your non-glare glasses. These women broke the glass ceiling before they ever even had an expression, the glass ceiling. I'm hoping that you'll join me and you'll find out who invented the ice cream maker, that I'm sure you enjoy ice cream at the end of the day, the chocolate chip cookie, when you go food shopping and use those flat bottom paper bags invented by a woman. I hope to see you in April. There are many more women. I haven't mentioned them. I haven't mentioned what they have invented. If you take my course, you'll be getting a list ahead of time of the inventions. And then you'll learn all about the women, what they went through, the personal background, the challenges that they faced. And as I said, many did this over 250 years ago. So everybody take care, and I hope to see you in the spring. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jack Burkert. I do Baltimore history programs, the comings and the going of the people, the events, the places, the times, all of those sorts of things are going to be covered in some of these various topics that we offer this semester. Start about electrifying Baltimore, the golden age of radio, the city in motion, Baltimore's planes, trains, and automobiles, and the steel industry down at Sparrows Point. That's our 4 topics. So that's on Wednesday mornings at Eden Wall. That's our story, and I hope you have a great day. Please sign up and join us. We should have a good time. It's a good series of programs. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Hello, my name is Bill Thompson, and the course that I will be teaching in both sessions of the spring semester at Osher Towson is entitled Governors of Maryland from Ritchie to the Present. Over the past century, Maryland has elected an assortment of interesting individuals, all white men so far, as governor. Most were consequential, often colorful, and sometimes controversial. All those elected contributed greatly to the history of the state. Although Maryland has been primarily a Democratic state over the past 100 years, albeit in different ideological forms, voters have elected 5 Republican governors out of the 14 elected since 1919, with a total of 7 overall. In this course, we will examine and discuss those who have served as Maryland's chief executive. My background is that of a history instructor who has taught 30 years at the community college and four-year university level, as well as teaching a course at Osher, teaching courses at Osher Towson several years back. Some of you may have taken me at that time, as well as Osher Johns Hopkins and the non-credit senior program at CCBC. I would be happy to have any of you that are interested to take my class, and I thank you very much for your time.
Hello, my name is Dr. Bob Baer, and I'm going to be teaching at Osher this spring the class King Arthur and the Holy Grail in Myth and History. Now, the stories of King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table have captured popular imagination for centuries. Arthur's stories have been embraced by virtually every country in Western Europe, and this is usually considered the foundational myth of Western civilization. Many questions, though, about King Arthur and his knights abound, and we'll be exploring these many myths and the history and the context around them. Questions like, was King Arthur a real king who ruled Britain during the Dark Ages? And were others like Merlin and the knights and Arthur, were they true historical characters, or were they created for some reason? And was there ever a Camelot? And if so, where was it? So we'll be looking at these stories and how they were created, who wrote the stories, what were the motives behind why they wrote these stories, but also why they're still popular and why they still have such an enduring appeal. Now, we'll also be looking at the quest for the Holy Grail, which was a very important element in the Arthurian stories. The Holy Grail, this cup that was supposedly captured the blood of Christ while he was on the cross, and also possibly used at the Last Supper. But it had many of the knights would go on these long quests that were similar to the Crusades, in which they had to be very spiritually pure and would go through these great traumatic trials and all while they're searching for the Grail. So very great stories. So we'll be looking at these stories, and especially the context, the history around, and try to understand the stories and give you a sense of that.
Good morning. My name is Guillermo Worle. Some of you might remember me from a couple of previous classes on technology innovations and wireless technology. This spring, I will be teaching a new class. It's called Humanitarian Engineering. It's challenges and successes. And it is new material for me, so you'll be kind of guinea pigs, and you will let me know on your feedback whether you like the subject or not, but I think you will. Basically, we will be looking at some of the big issues that our world is facing, like climate change and air pollution and water supply. And then we will look at the definition, the history, the evolution of the concept of humanitarian engineering, how it came about, what are some of the institutions that are teaching that, and a little bit about their programs. We will look into the organizations that provide support in many ways to humanitarian engineering, whether they are professional organizations or philanthropic organizations. And then we will look at the role of volunteering in that, which is quite important. And we will look at many example projects of humanitarian engineering throughout the world. We will touch a little bit on world poverty and see some of the things and see how humanitarian engineering at every possible level can help mitigate these things. So I hope you will join the class. And it's only a 4 session class. So we will go on that. I hope to see you in March. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Greg Pevsner, and I would like to talk to you about the course Women in Math and Science. In this course, you will learn about the life of 8 remarkable women, all of whom made significant contributions to math and science. The lives of these women were very different. Some of them, like Amélie du Châtelet or Marie Curie try to combine their scientific careers with family life and motherhood. Others, like Hypatia of Alexandria or Emmy Noether, spend every minute of their life pursuing their scientific careers. Some of them, like Sophie Germain, remained all their life in the city they were born. Others, like Sofia Kovalevskaya or Lisa Meitner, had to travel far into the foreign lands in order to pursue their scientific careers. But all of them were united by their determination, great talent, and unwavering pursuit of their scientific interests. I hope to see many of you at this course, and I promise you that the knowledge that you will get there will greatly enrich your life. Thank you.
Now, I know many of you out there are wondering whether you should take the History of Science course. Well, I have an aid to help you in your decision making. It's a short quiz, only 3 questions. So bear with me. Let's do it. Question number 1, how did we ever learn that all the material we see in the world is made up of atoms when we can't even see atoms, they're so tiny? Question 2, what did Galileo's sisters have to do with the beginning of the scientific revolution? Question number 3, this is true or false. Alchemy is to chemistry as astrology is to astronomy. Okay, now score yourself. And the criteria are, you don't need to know the right answer, but you need to admit whether you're confident in your answer or not. If you're confident, then count it as correct. Okay? And here's what your score means. If you got them all right, that means you really ought to take the course, because I'll need your help explaining things. If you got them all wrong, you need to build up your confidence in your scientific truths, so you should take the course. And if you are anywhere in between, then you know enough to be interested in science, and so you should take the course to improve your knowledge. So there it is, and I hope to see you all soon.